Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, and good night to wherever you are, whoever you are when you watch this video. I wanted to make this video because, first I would like to explain, I don't create content on YouTube because I want attention or because I am looking to get rich or because, I'm bored, which is what a lot of people on these contents do. You go and you just watch these videos. People are like, how to make money quick. This is what you need to do. Or, they just doing things just to get attention. It's all about money, sadly. I actually prefer not to be on camera. I would rather just talk and be able to write my thoughts out, because having to try to come up with it off the top of my dome, I'm not as good as some other people are, as you can tell. It's actually continuing with why interracial dating can be dangerous for the African person today, for the Black African person. And I actually want to expand on that and say any interracial relationship in a post-colonial world is dangerous for our minds. And a lot of people, I can tell a lot of people are just jumping off with the emotion of it. They're just attacking. They're not even hearing the part about the colonial part. They're not hearing the part about the minds. They're just hearing, well, you should just be with whoever you fall in love with. Or, I can just tell that a lot of people aren't really listening. And I make these videos because I need us to, there's the saying that says the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, but expecting different results. We as Black people have been doing the same thing over and over again and still expecting different results. I'm saying that I want us to do something differently, so that we can finally heal our minds. We have never had the chance to do that as Black people, and we can't do that if we are assimilating, if we are worried about those who identify as white in our relationships, if we are worried about their opinions and worried about their feelings and worried about hurting them and not worried about ourselves. That's what makes it dangerous, because we're in these relationships and a lot of people will, it's like we're living in a fairy tale. The relationships that you get into, they're not, and I'm not going to assume, I don't want to assume for everybody, but I just know based off of what they show you on TV and these movies, how, let's just take a soap opera, for example. They will have a character fall in love, break up, and 2 days later be with somebody else. And they are showing this to us, that this is normal, that this is what we're supposed to be doing. And then we are going out and living life. They say art imitates life, but now life is imitating the art, which is not very reflective of true life that it can help our mentality, that can help educate us, especially out of a system of oppression. But a lot of us, we gaslight. Even in our own community, that's why I said it can be dangerous, because if you just look at some of my videos and look at the comments, you can tell that these people are involved in these interracial relationships. And this is not an attack on interracial relationships or people or anything. This is a call to action for our minds. For our minds, went to my heart, because I'm sincere with this. I'm saying that mentally, if you are in a relationship with someone who identifies as white, that is the first red flag. You are still identifying as white, and we don't see the problem with that. Second red flag, we do not see the problem with it. And it just continues down this rabbit hole. And then, as I said, what I was saying, I was recording myself and didn't know that it wasn't recording. But, I was talking about chattel slavery. And someone, commented on one of my videos and said, you know what, I'm not as smart as I think I am. I don't know history. And then this person comments and has no idea what chattel slavery is. So this is what I'm saying. You have people who are just, emotionally responding, who actually have not done any research. And the real issue with us is that when we get into these relationships, we lose the empathy for us as Black people, and we give out all of our empathy and sympathy to a system of racism, white supremacy. So we are one of the videos in one of my podcasts, I said it's white fragility, Black sympathy. And what that means is we as black people give all of our sympathy to white fragility, because it's what it says. They can't handle that kind of truth. And so when we are in these relationships, friendships, romantic, however you want to describe it, we have to assimilate, and we have to take on that person's mindset. And that is what we have done. We have taken on the mindset of our oppressors, and they don't know that they are our oppressors, and they don't have to be our oppressors, but they are when we continue to get in these relationships and we're not fighting for our own mind. We're not fighting for our mind. That makes it an oppressive relationship. If you believe that, and sadly, so many of us believe that, chattel slavery was not that bad. It was just a part of history. Move on. But Black people have never healed from it. You have generations of trauma, and actual psychologists have spoke on this. You have generations of trauma within you, and then we want to pretend that it doesn't exist, and that is the problem. That is why it can be dangerous, because when we as Black people get into these relationships, we give all of our sympathy to white supremacy, and we have no empathy for ourselves or for our ancestors. And that's what's very dangerous. I'm trying to help you see that this is not an attack. It's a call to action for us to wake up and fight for ourselves. Do you really want to continue being dependent on a government which once had your ancestors enslaved, instead of having our own government? It's so important that we as Black people remember who we were. And I apologize if you hear my stomach growling, but it's so important that we remember who we were beyond America. And one thing that I said is that it's like, let's just imagine we have a Bible, but the Bible is the story of the African. Okay, it's not about Jesus or God or Noah. It's about all of the different African people in history. And it seems like all Black people are stuck on the chapter called America. And we are constantly we're just so narrow-minded on the fact that we have attached ourselves to America, that we need our entire history, our story to begin in America, because we don't believe that we had anything beyond America. This is it. And we believe in the inferiority that was taught by white supremacy. We believe in that inferiority. We believe in a system of inferiority placed on the African people. Okay? They, say we could not have Africans could not have possibly traveled. They could not have built any boats because they were swinging on trees and they needed to be civilized. Okay. And a lot of us believe this, but I'm trying to help us see that you have an entire Bible, which explains in the entire history of where the African has been in life, where the African has traveled, but we are only focused on the chapter called America. We need to open that book up and read the chapter of Japan, read the chapter of Asia, read the chapter of India, read the chapter of Europe, read the chapter of, heck, Beyond the Stars, okay? We are only focused on America. You are focused on that, the 80-20 rule. We are focused on that 20%. And you don't realize that you have had the entire 100% at some point. I'm just trying to help us see. And that is why it can be dangerous, because we get into these relationships, these friendships, we have these situational ships, which keeps us on a surface level thinking, and it keeps us just driving for that dollar, driving for the dollar bill, driving for, I want the American dream. And we're just living in a fairy tale. That's the real fairy tale. We are living in a fairy tale, not reality. So again, I don't make these videos because I want attention or because I'm trying to become a billionaire. I don't like the system of capitalism. I don't like it at all. I don't like the fact that I have to depend on someone else to build a house for me, that I have to depend on someone else to get my groceries. I want to build my own house. I want to build my own computers, build my own, everything that it takes to survive. I want to have that knowledge to do so. And I want us all to desire to have that knowledge to do that, so that we're not just completely dependent on the system. We can do this. We can have the knowledge. I believe it's already in us to have the knowledge to build. We can do these things. But as long as we as Black people remain dependent, it keeps us in this relationship. And then someone will say, well, why are you taking, history out on people who are alive today, those who identify as white? Why are you taking that out on them when they had nothing to do with it? And that, again, it's more proof how it can be dangerous, because you're not even fighting for yourself at this point. You're not fighting for yourself because you don't understand. You don't know what to fight for. And I understand that not everyone is going to think like me. I'm trying to help people think more like me so that we can finally be free. But when you say things like that, it tells me where your allegiance lies. It doesn't lie with you, or it doesn't lie with the Black African person. It lies with those who identify as white. You are protecting a system of white supremacy, and you're not protecting yourself. You're not protecting your community. You're not protecting your mind. And it's just really, it's really tragic, because we as Black people are the only group of people on this planet who do not know our true history, who don't want to know our true history. I hear so many people of different cultures say, we have the best culture. I was speaking to someone who was, I can't think of the nationality right now, but they were basically saying that they had the best culture, that they are so proud of their culture. And we as Black people are running away from our heritage day by day. They keep making these videos about the indigenous Indian, the indigenous, Black Native American, and what that does is it places superiority. It adds to that superiority complex, because you're saying that, and a lot of people will say, our ancestors, they were intelligent. We were intelligent. We weren't slaves. So you have to think about what that says. What are you saying? Do you hear what you have just said? Our ancestors, the Native Americans, were intelligent. They weren't African. Do you hear what you're doing? I'm trying to help us see how the system has taught us racial hierarchy. It taught us racial hierarchy. And that is why we can't get ahead. As I said, I would love one day, every other place on this planet, you go to China, you go to Japan, you go to India, and you see every person has that land established to fit to their group of people. But where do you really see that as Black people? Even if you go to Africa, the languages that are predominantly, that are, what I want to say is mostly, not mostly, well, they say Swahili is the #1 language spoken in the continent, but it's not taught. It's not taught in the educational system. It's not taught here. No African language is taught anywhere, because we still place inferiority on the African person. And that is why it's so important for a lot of Black people in America to claim being Native or indigenous. because you believe in that false racial hierarchy system. This is why it's dangerous for us, because all this is doing is keeping us divided. You are looking for that. You are fighting for the 20% and not demanding for the rest of the 80 that you are owed. And it keeps us from rising again. We have not risen yet. You know, this history, our story is still being written as Black people. And now we are on the chapter of division in America, or division globally. We're still on that chapter because it continues, and people want to claim their nationality, but they don't want to claim their heritage. When you look up Dominican, it's a mixture because people were transported of African people, of African descent people. That is in, Dominican as well. But they don't want to, a lot of people don't want to claim that. You can do the research and look it up yourself. All I'm trying to help us see is that these relationships we get into, when they keep you from fighting for who you are, that's what makes it dangerous, because we are still dependent. We don't have our own statues. We don't have our own system, our own government that's going to protect us. We have to continue to depend on, in America, let's just say in America, we have to depend on the White House and beg them. I'm watching people like Ayanna Pressley. I'm watching people like her, they're fighting for it and saying, it's wrong. This government, I'm not begging you. I am asking you. But we should not be asking for anything. That's the problem. We're still asking, and people are watching us continue to ask, continue to beg, continue to ask, continue to beg, continue to ask, continue to beg, ask and beg, ask and beg. When are we going to know that we have the power to build our own? The only way we're going to do that is by coming together. We can't do that by remaining divided. So I don't want this video to be too long, because I know people don't want to just look at my face. But it's just very important. Like I said, it's not an attack. I'm trying to help us see how harmful it is for us to not have empathy for our own suffering, to not have empathy for our own ancestors, to not fight for them, to not fight for our mind. Black people we need that time, and we deserve to have that time alone. But we can't do it when we're dependent. It's hard to do that when you're dependent on the very system that keeps you from collectively rising. And it keeps you from collectively rising by getting into here. It's in here. It's in the consciousness, and it's telling you that you're good where you're at. You're good. All you got to do is get that money, honey. All you got to do is get that money, and you are good. You can get that house. You can get that car, get that house, and you are good. It's in here. And that's what's dangerous.